America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome to the regularly scheduled school committee meeting of Monday, February 26, 2018. This is your notice that this meeting is being electronically recorded. I'm going to start tonight with our spotlight event, which is Brennan Middle School. So, Assistant Superintendent Regan, if you want to call up Dr. Souza and his team.
Sure. Tonight we have Brennan Middle School as our spotlight. We'd like to have Dr. Souza and his team come up to the table.
All right. I will stand the computer just in case. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for coming.
Anytime, Monday, right after break. I hope you all had a good either time with family, with their kids. I know we have our kiddos here today that are supporting us and are going to speak to you guys in a little bit. But first, I just want to welcome a few people. Kelly Schwannard, our assistant principal over at Brennan Middle School. Robin Bianchetto, our adjustment counselor. We have Paula Haig. Where's Paula? Our clerk. She's always a huge support, always there for us. And we have, where's Sue Kachanis? Right here. Sue Kachanis is certainly a huge support for us and always there for us. And we also have a couple of members of the YMCA that we'll be speaking about and highlighting in our spotlight tonight. Robin McDonald, thank you for coming, and Susan Mastrandria. So thank you very much. We appreciate your support and our continued partnerships. So we, a little delay. So we've kind of structured the presentation tonight in kind of two buckets. One, we're looking at our partnerships with our shared vision of our 21st century preparation and our partnerships with a shared vision, social emotional well-being. So talking really about how are we handling and taking care of the whole child at Brennan Middle School. So rather than going through all of these, I think our kids are going to have an opportunity in our slides. We'll speak to you about some of these. So first, we'll hop right into the 21st century, and as you can see, and I'm sure you've heard about our hashtag Engage Attleboro, and I can talk to you a little bit about what we're doing here at Brennan, and really it's an instructional leadership team. Our teachers really stepping up to the plate and taking on a leadership role within the building, and really their focus is enhancing the curriculum instruction that's happening at Brennan. So we started early this year as a staff, and our staff was defining what student engagement is, what does it look like, what does it sound like, which was an awesome opportunity to have all of our staff and faculty together, and that's paras, that's teachers, it's everyone really defining and getting a collective definition of what we feel engagement is. Part of that definition included student voice, what students thought engagement was. So we did a lot of pre-work with that. Ultimately, really what we're doing, so part of this Engage Attleboro and what we're working with teachers is to provide real value beyond the classrooms. So we're asking, and the instructional leadership team is really asking the staff to take a really good look at what's happening in the classrooms and trying to take what we do and bring it to a whole new level. And again, we're talking about each year we're getting a new set of kids, and that really our students that we see last year are totally not the same students that we see this year. So we really have to take a good look at what we're teaching them, how we're teaching them, and what's next. So I think the instructional leadership team is doing a fantastic job with working with that. So we're right in the middle of the year right now where teachers are creating. So they were tasked, they left our last meeting with an idea or a lesson or some sort of product they're going to work on to take to the next level, whether it's a partnership with the Attleboro community, but it's really trying to think outside the box and try to really provide students an opportunity to say, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, and that's really what we're here for. So I have to say I'm really proud of all of the teachers. They're really taking an active role, and I can't wait to see some of the products that they put into action. So, some of the nice and exciting things that we have going on this year, and let me, if I can back up, last year, when we did our spotlight meeting last year, we talked a lot about our PBIS and our initiative. And again, it's not that we're I'm not trying to bring it up again, but it is kind of embedded in what we do at Brennan. So it's not something that's fell off. In fact, you're going to see a little bit at the end there where we're talking to you about our pep rally, and you might see a little bit of pictures from our pep rally, which is really important to recognize kids for doing the right thing. So that's an ongoing thing that we do at Brennan. So I don't want to not pay attention to that, but I want to say this year I wanted to highlight some of our exciting opportunities that we have, and this one in fact is really exciting. We're actually, our first meeting is Wednesday, so I'm going to meet with Sue Levine and Ann Matagano, and we're going to talk about creating an after-school activity for kids that we then have them come over here to investigate the CTE programs here at the high school. So we do often hear of kids not knowing which pathway they want to get into. So this is an opportunity to give them a little taste, give them a teaser of what the high school is really all about. And that's really, when you think about it, our high school kids are constantly asking us, we'd love to go over to the high school. So this is one vehicle in which we can really give them an opportunity to kind of test the waters over here. So again, we're meeting Wednesday, so we'll have further details, soon. But we're really excited to get this off the ground for trimester 3 of this year. So that's what we got lined up right there. And again, this is going to be grant funded. We will have a staff member working with these kids, helping these kids get over to the high school. So we're looking forward to that. Next, Tinker and Create.
Tinker and Create. Tinker and Create is a offering after school where students have an opportunity to engage in different courses. Right now, they're learning how to create websites, so it's website design. And the understanding behind Tinker and Create stems from the idea of STEM, the science, technology, engineering. It all works together, and the belief is that imagination and creativity are part of every child, but it requires tools that need to be developed in order for students to problem solve. And they said that in order to do that, we would like to come in and help allow them through play and creativity to acquire those skills, which will empower them to advance with 21st century skills and have fun while they were doing it. So presently, we have students who can speak to that. Some of the other offerings before they speak that we're hoping to see come up over the next year: digital game design, interesting, robotics, 3D printing, graphic design, comic book design, webcasting, podcasting, some of that which they can already do, but I'm sure we can advance those skills, and digital toy design. So there's a lot to be said for learning through play, especially this kind of play that really does advance their 21st century ability and skill. With us today, we have Alyssa Woodward and Keegan Fitzpatrick. If the two of you can come forward. Thank you. So the two of you are playing with these web designs, yes? Mm-hmm. Creating websites. What can you tell us about it?
Do you want to go first? Sure. So Tinker and Create is like a program where we are learning to make our own website, and we're learning about how to code and do stuff like that.
How to code? What does that mean, how to code?
It's like HTML and all heads and bodies.
That clarifies things for all of us. So have you created a web page yet? Have you done that?
No, we're still learning some of the fundamentals to do that. So,
and are you having fun while you're doing it?
Yes, he engages us with activities, we get to do games, he teaches us how to code, basically.
and that's fun. Keegan, what can you tell us about it?
It's a hands-on program where we get to learn how to do something our own way. We don't have to do it by the book. Like, someone else in our group could be doing something, but we could learn it our own way, which is we had this one thing where you had to make a boat out of HTML, and everybody was trying to figure out, and one was oh, it's on the other side, and he put the answers on the other side if you just flipped it over. So, and another thing is it'll help us later with internships if we want to go on later to do something with
And
web
you're
design.
already thinking about internships. That's
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
So it could help us if we know how to do it already, it could help us furthermore towards high school and college, getting into a better school or college.
Wow. And when you finally create that website, I'm going to be the first one to see it, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. I don't know if any of you have any questions for the two of them.
Do you have any questions? I think it's very impressive. I'm glad. It's good to see you guys enjoying learning and something that you can use to better yourselves going forward. And coming up here and speaking to a packed room like this is no easy task. So kudos to both of you for that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice job.
Our next kind of exciting after-school activity that we have going on is a double ACS, and we began talking early this year and said, wow, wouldn't it be really cool that if we had our kids gain access to the double ACS studio? They said, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, okay. And so right now on Monday afternoon, the kids were there today. They're working on a project right now. We bus them over, and one of our staff members meets them at 2:30 over at double ACS. They're there for an hour, and they're working on a project. But they get to access all of the state-of-the-art equipment, and it's just amazing. I'll let them talk to you about what they're doing right now, but I cannot wait to share it because I know it's going to be top-notch. So where are our double ACS?
Chad Bolton, Lizzie Kirby, come
Here
on
we
up.
go. So here's Chad and Lizzie. You guys want to talk about a little bit about what you guys are doing right now?
Sure. So at first we just learned how to operate the cameras and how to set up a tripod first. And now we filmed our pep rally, which just happened the Friday before vacation. And we filmed interviews with Dr. Souza and a bunch of teachers and students. And we're trying to put that into one news bundle, and we're going to try to play it across the school so that everyone can see it.
Chad?
I like everything about it. Everybody's involved, and we all get a chance to learn about cameras, equipment that we could be using in our futures, and we get to do things that we like to do. We didn't get we got chose to do this, but we like to do it. So.
And it's good for public speaking. So if kids aren't good at public speaking at first, if they're in front of the camera and they're engaging, and they're learning, how to be in front of the camera, and what position they like, they could probably go into that as a career in the future. So.
How do you guys find it different than normal classroom learning? What you do in the classroom during the day, is it more enjoyable?
Yeah, because a lot of the stuff that we do is really hands-on. We're working with the cameras. We're turning them on and turning them off. We're not reading out of a book. So.
We also get to work with each other, and not just work as yourself and read and then write. We always just talk and communicate instead of reading.
Now, did you guys want to do this because you have an interest in going into this field, or has doing this kind of made you want to go into this field?
The second one probably more.
For me, it's the first one because I'm a very outgoing person and I like to talk.
Gives you an opportunity to do that without getting in trouble.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. it is exciting. We get photos on a weekly basis of the kids behind the scenes working with the green screens. I just said, you know, one thing that I just ask, you just got to throw a Bulldog in there somewhere, you know.
We're working on that.
They're on it. That's it. So there we go. So now we're gonna move over to kind of the social emotional well-being, talk about the whole child.
Our adjustment counselor will be spending a lot of time in that area.
That's right. So we're going to be with Reach and Rise.
Well, Susan and Robin are here from the YMCA. We've partnered with them this year to be part of a group mentoring program. We were able to send about 8 of our students this year over to work in this program. The YMCA picks them up from school on Wednesdays at 2:30, and the Attleboro Public Schools transports all the kids back home afterwards, which was really nice. And they do a really wide range of activities, and I want them to tell you about it because I'm not there, but it's going really well. So this is Susan and Robin, and that's our friend Mecca. And Caleb, where are you? You go to Reach and Rise too, right? You want to stand up with those guys over there?
Come on, Caleb.
All right.
So these are 2 of our mentees. This is Mecca and Caleb.
Hello.
They've been with the program since the beginning. We started in November, and we're going on our 11th session this week. Some things that we discuss in each session is communication, life skills, problem solving, good decision-making skills, and of course we want these kids to develop a healthy relationship with an adult mentor. And so each week, you know, we'll start with a specific theme such as life skills, and we'll talk about that, and then we'll break up into 2 different groups. We'll do some team building and then debrief on that. And we'll also do an activity in the cafe. So one week the activity was stress balls. And so how do we make those?
So we took a balloon, then we had a funnel, and we poured a lot of rice into it. Most of the time it got stuck because usually we had the smaller ones to use. But in the end, then we tied it all up, and then it was a very nice stress ball.
Yeah. Do you guys use them now?
I still have it.
Good. What about you, Mecca? What do you have to say about the program?
The program's very good. I like it a lot because we can basically confess to what's happening at school if anything's going wrong or if we just need help on something. So I like it a lot.
And we can also support them academically too in the beginning of the session. So academics, life skills, communication, anger management, positive conflict resolution, you name it, we're working on it, and it's been very successful. I'm very proud of these kids. They're great kids, and I only hope this program can grow.
Very good. Thank you.
Questions?
Is this the first time for this program?
So last year we had a small group at Wamsutta.
Okay.
We tried to incorporate Norton schools as well. That didn't pan out. So last year we went to Wamsutta Middle School. We had about 6 mentees. We did the program there. But I think now having the program at the YMCA is better for everybody. I mean, the kids are getting transported both ways. They get out of the school environments into the Y where they're working with mentors, adults, and it's going well.
And I just want to add that every week you write us this amazing email about the session and everything wonderful that took place and the skills that were learned on that particular day. And the kids are really happy to be there. So you know that when they're excited to go, something great is happening. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thursday emails.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have our Bulldog Bridge program. It's also a pilot.
Yes, so I have recently joined the district graduation team, and my role is to really help connect high school students with middle school students who might be identified as at risk for academics or for social emotional issues that are going on. So we are working with Becky Halsey, who's the community leadership teacher here at the high school, as well as Angela Larson, who is the NHS advisor here. And we are in the process of coming up with a system to match students with one another on an individual basis based on needs, interests, strengths, areas of concern, schedules, and so far it's going really well. We have some students who come during the school day and they spend an hour each day with one of my friends from the high school now, Tyler, is hanging out in the 6th grade with my friend Sean here. You want to stand up? And what is cool, what's different about working with Tyler than with some of your lovely teachers and grown-ups?
Well, there's not students in the class, so I can't get distracted by trying to talk to other students and fooling around in class instead of listening. And with Tyler, it's a one-on-one thing, so he helps me understand what I'm supposed to be doing in class.
And what do you guys have in common?
So he's in school right now, and so am I. So he knows how it is to be in school science.
Yeah.
You're probably not used to it. So it's
been a little while. Yeah, thanks. And he knows how hard middle school can be, right? But he's now in what grade? He's a senior. He's in 12th grade. He's going to graduate. But it's pretty great because these guys can really relate to each other. And like Sean says, he's a little more in tune maybe with what it's like to be a student right now. So it's in the very beginning stages, but I see a lot of great things happening with these partnerships. Thanks, Sean. Thank you, Sean.
Dennis, did you have a question?
Yeah, is this across all 5 through 8, or is it grade specific?
Well, originally it's evolving. So originally it was, let's match seniors with 8th graders. And I thought, well, we've got some younger kids who also could really use this. And we also have some freshmen that are reaching out to us to come back to Brennan and help out. So I think that's a great idea too, because then these kids will come up to high school and they'll have a buddy, so to speak, who can, show them around and help with transition. And it's just a nice familiar face. So it's open to all grades
and
on both ends.
I think it's neat. We do proximity-wise to the high school. It works well. We have lots of frequent visitors that recently graduated that often come back after schools, and they now want to come back to Brennan and hang out. So yeah, it's really nice to see that. Yeah. All right. Next is our mock peer leaders.
So we were lucky enough to have an opportunity to receive a free training from the MARC Center. So it's the Massachusetts Aggression Reduction Center over at Bridgewater State University. They do a lot of work on anti-bullying and anti-cyberbullying. And we were able to select 25 of our 7th grade students to go through a training the week before last and help us develop what will be a student leaders program at Brennan. We chose 7th graders because we have them for another year. I had a lot of 8th graders that wanted to join, and I'll sneak them in later, but they're going to be future leaders here at the high school as well. The kids brainstormed all morning about thank you, Mecca. They brainstormed all morning about the issues that kids are facing and what is going on here at Brennan, and they were able to narrow it down to a main kind of topic of intolerance. So they really want to spread acceptance and tolerance of differences and unique qualities, and really make it a safer place for people who don't really feel like they might fit in, or they're confused about who they are. And really, these kids want everyone to feel safe. At the end of the day, everybody wants to feel accepted. So we are going to be figuring out what that's going to look like, and one of the ideas is the kids are going to host Brennan Time talks and maybe go into classrooms and kind of talk with the kids about what's going on socially and what kind of problems they're having. Because again, with the kids learning from other kids, I really feel like that's the way to go. And these are actually going to be peers that are already in the building, and they will be, we have so many opportunities for leadership for students, and I think this is a really exciting one as well.
Game change.
Me again. This is a really exciting grant that we received at the beginning of the school year, and this is a program that's funded by Robert Kraft and the Patriots, so that was pretty exciting. It is an MVP program, which is Mentors in Violence Prevention, another peer leadership mentoring program. The idea of this program is very specific to preventing relationship violence and gender mistreatment. So we are going to be training a similar group of kids at the high school at first, so a group of about, 18 sophomores and juniors from all walks of life. I kind of asked the guidance department to come up with a list of kids for us that perhaps would represent, all of our clubs that we have here at the school, as well as athletics, because we really want, again, every kid to feel like they have a voice and someone they can identify with in these roles. So we are going to be training this year, myself and Matt Bosch and Jess Yucatonis here at the high school were trained. So that will be something that eventually will also trickle down to the middle school, and I'd like to use this model with the peer leaders program that we have at Brennan. Any questions? A lot of information.
Yeah. All right. So our next one, Mr. Schwanad will speak to this. I think the video should play. This is. I wish I had a better video of this, but I'll tell you, this is really neat as well.
So the kids are having a lot of fun after school on Thursdays, and Master O from the Muhan Martial Arts comes in and he teaches the students, and he began with teaching them discipline. It's not hands-on, so they are learning some moves, but mostly he focuses on discipline and interactions that the kids should be having, respectful interactions with each other, with adults. And then he combines, a little bit of the martial arts physical aspect into the training. And the kids absolutely love it. We sometimes have 35, 40 kids show up for a session. So it's a pretty exciting program that we have going. Presently, they've taken a small break. They'll be back soon, and we'll start the next enrollment for students to begin and continue with their instruction with martial arts. We do have Andrew here, who has been part of that. Yes? Yes. Come join us. So Andrew, did you have fun?
Yes, I did.
You did? What can you tell us about it?
So at the beginning, we just learned like what it was all going to be about, and like what we're going to expect and how we need to act in the session. And then we started working on like some kicks and stuff, but for like self-defense, but we're not allowed to do that anywhere else except there, apparently.
That's training right there.
I still want to do it at home. So it was fun when I did it, and I thought it was a really cool experience learning how it's really different than what we do.
Did you ever break a board there?
No.
You did not? Were you present when I broke the board?
Yes, I was.
That was exciting, wasn't it?
That was.
I'm just saying. Lots of fun?
Yes.
So even we have fun. I have to throw it in there. The fact that it was very thin, but it was still fun.
Yes.
Thank you, Andrew.
And of course, after you work out, you need to rethink your drink. So this was another great opportunity to be a part of at Brennan Middle School, was the Rethink Your Drink initiative, and it was by the Healthy Living Consortium. And this was a grant, and first it was a group, that consortium that was working together to try to, really get kids and people to start thinking about, choosing water as a primary drink. And thus, we had 4 water filling stations installed in each one of the clusters in our at Brennan. So as you can see here, to date, right before break, we have about 8,350 pours, water fills. So, you know, you could think about it, you know, this is saving water bottles from being thrown away. I talk to kids, I've talked to staff. People are using it on a daily basis. And of course, each kid and staff member received a fancy Choose H2O water bottle with our Brennan logo, the Bulldog, and hashtag Do the Right Thing on there. So you'll see, you know, roaming from class to class, kids with their blue bottles, which is really nice. And we appreciate that. I think right now, the consortium is now moved over to Wamsutter, correct? Mm-hmm. And Wamsutter is about to get their Rethink Their Drink. But it's really good, and you know, based on the data, the pre and post test, kids are now filling and drinking more water in the building. So again, what we're trying to do is give kids access to clean, good water. So and we love it. We love it, and staff loves it. And we're going to continue to try to push water as our primary drink over at Brennan. So this is really neat. Another pilot, there's lots of little pilots, which is good, and we're hoping that these will be, continuous, is a program that we're working with, again, with the YMCA, and we really want to rethink the ways that we discipline our kids, right? So in lieu of suspension, what can we do? Because we all know suspension just, it doesn't work. So we need to think about a different way to tackle that issue. So the YMCA, of course, sat down with us, and we started thinking about an option in lieu of suspension, where on a Saturday, bi-weekly, that there's an opportunity to really connect what we want to do. We want to give kids a feeling of a connection, because I feel like sometimes that's what's really missing is feeling connected to school. So if we structure some sort of opportunity on a Saturday where we're not breaking into their education, because again, when you think about it, the students that we are suspending are really the kids that really need to be there on a daily basis. So we're taking them out of the classrooms, we're putting them home. That can't happen. So utilizing the Saturday, and as you can see from the sample agenda, there's going to be opportunities to really work on, academic support, that social emotional support, that restorative piece. How are we going to make things reflect on what you did, and what are you going to do differently next time? And goal setting, because again, that's something that we really need to do with our kiddos. Again, this is hopefully we're not seeing kids on an ongoing basis, because we want to see them, of course we want to help support them, but the idea is to not see them as much. But again, we appreciate the YMCA's support and sitting down with us. I don't know if you have anything, Sue, you want to add?
Thank you, Dr. Souza.
No,
So Dr. Souza came to the he sent me an email regarding this suspension alternative program. I thought it was a great idea. I talked to Robin. She's like, talk to Dr. Souza, see what we can do. So as you can see in the sample agenda, we're obviously going to focus on some academic support, because that's what these kids need. They don't need to be home playing on their electronics. They need to be in school. They shouldn't be missing school. We're also going to provide some team building, some reflection. So it's not going to be, all a negative experience for them. We want to provide the support that they need, but also give them time to reflect and hopefully change the behaviors that have brought them to this point in school, in suspension. Thank you. Any questions?
How many sessions have you had so far? Zero.
So we plan on commencing on March 24th.
Okay.
And as Dr. Souza said, about every 2 weeks.
Great. How many students can you accommodate on a?
12. And so we'll have, the YMCA will be providing a staff person, and Brennan Middle School will be providing a staff person as well.
Great.
Both teachers, our staff person is a teacher as well.
Any other questions?
I actually have a question. It's kind of interesting. So would it like depend on like what the suspension is if like they're doing it like for the Saturday thing? Because if it's like someone got into a fight, you know, like is that still a Saturday thing or is that like an out of school?
Well, that's what we're looking at is an alternative to, you know.
Yeah.
And again, I think depending on, you know, the severity of an infraction, that's something that we have to decide as an administration, whether or not it needs something that's immediately removal, or is it something that, you know what, we really need this person to process and figure out a better way. And in that sense, we can utilize, all right, this child needs to focus, process, and do some work at, you know, at the YMCA with our staff and their staff, and then hope that does not, you know, come, you know, hopefully they're changing their behaviors. Again, we're also going to allow the opportunity for both the YMCA staff member, our staff member, to kind of, you know, sit down, plan. This is, again, we've met 0 times, so it's, you know, what worked, what didn't work, what can we tweak, you know, so hopefully this is, you know, something that's going to grow, and they'll tweak as time moves on.
Well, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I think how to discipline our students is something that's struggled with in education because, as you all mentioned, the students who are being disciplined are the ones we need to make sure we don't lose, and are still in the building. So I think I applaud you guys for thinking outside the box and working together to come up with this. I look forward to hearing in a year or so how it's going.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. And we have Jennifer. And who else do we have to speak? We'll do, and then we can do Samari, and because it's going to go into the slideshow, we'll start right away.
Sure. So you want to have Jennifer come up first?
Sure.
All right, Jennifer.
There she is.
Hi there. Hi. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Great. Jennifer's here, kind of as our cheerleader at Brennan, right? Yes. So Jennifer's going to speak to you about how wonderful Brennan is.
Yes.
Yes? What can you tell us about Brennan?
It's one of those schools that I can actually wake up every morning and actually want to go to school tomorrow with encouragement, saying, I want to do this. There's things at school that make me happy that I like at school. It's a comfortable environment, and I feel amazing to go there. Of course, every student has their favorite things about the school, and mine is probably the after-school activities, like Dr. Souza was mentioning earlier. I do like how there's so many programs, and you can find the one or a couple that fit for you. Like, for example, I'm a big fan of drama club because I like to go into all those, like, you know, plays. And
you're amazing at it.
I know that's shocking, everyone.
I also do like other clubs. I know that there's the martial art club, which I've tried a couple times as well. There's art club, and apparently they're starting the new robotics club at school.
Wednesday, right?
Oh, yeah,
tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Lots going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things that you can engage in, and it's like hand-on-hand activities that make you just feel comfortable. I love the school.
Thank you.
She's a sweetheart.
So PBIS is definitely working at Brennan. We have 2 students who decided in the middle of the year, they came up to me and they said, Mrs. Brennan, we have something really great we want to show you. And they showed me and I thought it was really great. And then they said, we'd like to teach all of the 5th grade this. And I thought, I think we can do that. And we worked with the phys ed teachers, and we actually were able to get the entire 5th grade to learn what 2 girls, out of excitement and pride in Brennan, developed. So if we can get Vanjali and Samari up. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Are you excited? Are you gonna? I know you're nervous. Nice and loud, though, right? We're gonna have a nice, loud voice for this. So do you want to speak about Brennan at all? Do you want to share anything before you go into your...
Well, what I'd like to say about Brennan,
I like our teachers that we have, and Mrs. Shinard and Dr. Souza, that is basically that take care of our school. And I like about the whole entire school that we do activities and we have like specials like art. And art is my favorite kind of special that I like because I like to draw and be creative. And I just like all the teachers that help their students, and they're really helpful and teach their students how to learn and do some smart stuff and help other students that need help. And I just like helping really a lot in my class because when I was in elementary, I was really helpful in my classrooms. And my teachers also loved me because I was helpful to every student in my classroom.
And that just continues,
Yeah.
evidently. Absolutely. Samari, do you want to speak about Brennan at all? Or do you want to get right into the chat?
Let's do it.
She's ready. Okay. Nice and loud so they can hear the words, okay?
Bulldog, bulldog, Brennan made us say bulldog, bulldog, Brennan made us say fee, fi, fo, fum. Listen to the bulldog. Hashtag do the right thing.
Creativity and thought, and they came up with that all on their own and then presented to us, and we were pretty impressed by them. So we appreciate their school spirit and the pride they have in Brennan. Thank you, ladies.
And amazing, in front of, they then took that at a pep rally in front of 600 kids, and you know tried to teach. We tried to do it in front of the 600 kids, and just amazing. So these are our kiddos at Brennan. We're really proud of all of the work that they're doing on a daily basis. I'm really proud of the teachers that are working, the staff at Brennan. They're hard workers. We're hard workers. You know, this is, when we wake up every day, you know, it's because of these kiddos. And, you know, we all love what we do. And it shows when you walk through the doors there. We did put together a little bit of a quick little slideshow, and then we'll clear out. But just a sample of a little student life, what's happening on a daily basis at Brennan. We are Brennan.
Thank you all. Thank you all very much. Thank you to the students and parents, and to the Y as well, Robin and Susan. Thank you very much for coming in. I love to see the partnerships between our schools and the organization. So, again, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I just ask one favor? Can I get a picture of the kids just right in front so they can have you guys in the background? That way I can get that to the families. All right. Can I get you guys up here, please? We can do that.
I guess.
Just stand behind you.
Do you want to be in the picture?
You want to do that?
Yeah. He's like, yes, both of us.
How are you?
Do you want to bring them in the middle, Doctor?
I don't want in it.
Want to get them in the middle here? Or?
Oh yeah, maybe we can go in the middle.
Do pictures.
No, you guys go right in the middle.
Let's go right in the middle.
I'll wait at the door. No, I don't do pictures. I got this. No.
You can't. Yeah.
I'll with me here. You're the free.
Yeah. It's okay. Be careful of some of the cords in the middle.
One in here.
Oh, okay. More relaxed. Good.
Sorry.
Oh, no. Do we kneel? One of them?
A little.
Are we kneeling?
You guys kneel. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, that's so cute.
1, 2, 3, cheese. Nice. Hold on.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Good job, guys. I waved tonight. I waved.
You got it.
I guess.
Thank you, Sean, for coming.
Good to see you, bro. You as well.
See you, Brian.
Keep up the good work. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I know now. Next time.
We will move on to our Student Advisory Council update around Attleboro. Perry, if you want to take it away.
Thank you. So this is what's around Attleboro right now. So in elementary, on 28th, PTO cookie fundraiser begins for Thatcher. The first pennies for patients kicks off. That's also for Thatcher. Term 2 ends March 2nd. 5th, term 3 begins for kindergarten through 4th grade. The 5th, school council and PTO meeting for Thatcher. 7th, kindergarten information night, and that's 6:30 to 7:30. In the middle school, 28th, author Davis Williams' 5th and 6th grade presentation, that's for Coelho. Also on 28th, PTO meeting for Coelho. First, travel meeting for Wamsutto. Also on the first, Brennan Middle School talent show, obviously for Brennan. First, Bertucci's fundraiser, also for Brennan. And 9th, bowling night, also for Brennan. And high school, on the 28th, MCAS ELA retest. The 3rd, drama festival. The 5th, MCAS math retest. And the 8th is an advisory day. And 26th, varsity jacket night. And that was originally scheduled for March 5th. For community engagement, on the 28th, our opportunities fair, 8:30 to 10:30 in the morning. And the 6th, district travel night, that's at 6:30. And for SAC update, we don't have anything because didn't have a meeting last time for our Bliss fundraiser, and we're working on, I don't know if Aiden told you guys last meeting, we're working on putting posters up around like the cafeteria over the recycle bins to promote more recycling. We're gonna do like, we gotta get the posters like permitted for us, like our design. That's what we were working on originally, but we still don't have like a final design. And we wanted to get like those cheap lights, we don't know if it's allowed yet, and put it around the poster. It's more like you see it more than just like a regular paper on the wall. And that's it.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Perry. Moving on to our business agenda tonight, we'll turn it over to the superintendent for his report.
Thank you, Chairman. First, I can't help but resist to comment on the spotlight we just enjoyed from Brennan. I'm sure it's not lost on this committee that Dr. Souza and his team's presentation really embodies how this district has been changed by our strategic plan. You know, it was really, it really exemplified the kind of work that's occurring in all of our schools that, you know, is indicative of the direction that we're trying to head in and the kinds of activities that we are encouraging and supporting to improve learning for our students. And it's just really a joy to see it all coming together in that way. My one item that I need to discuss this evening with you is relative to school safety. The unspeakable tragedy that occurred in Florida earlier this month needs to be addressed. Our parents and many members of our community are understandably shaken by the events that have become all too common in this country. That we need to discuss these things tonight is not the way the world should be, in my opinion. Something is dramatically wrong that we have to concern ourselves with these matters, but nonetheless, that is the situation that we face. It is worthy of noting that these events have prompted a national discussion that we need to pay attention to. And one thing I will comment on is that, in my opinion, it was the student reaction in this case that has finally broken the mode of discourse that we have had up to this point as a country. And I think it really speaks to how powerful students can be and why we as a district value student voice and will continue to find ways to provide student voice, because it's their involvement that has finally helped to change, I think, the way that we're talking about this as a country. Now, it should go without saying, but safety is our first priority. You know, we expect parents to send their students to us every day, and, you know, we could not expect them to do so unless we can, you know, ensure their safety. And so, you know, this comes first. And it's also worth noting that safety is a necessary precondition to learning. Nobody can be taught who does not feel safe, right? You cannot teach children who do not feel safe. And I would also mention that, you know, this isn't just a professional concern for me, but it's a personal one. Not only do I send my 2 children to the schools every day, but my wife and I both work here. So, you know, this isn't just an academic issue for me. You know, this is a personal matter in my family that we're all here every day. And it's from that perspective that I say that I do so knowing that we all feel safe. And the data, when we talk to students, suggests that they feel safe as well. But it is important to note that as much as safety is important, and as much as there's good reason to believe that we are safe, there is no such thing as absolute safety. There's nothing anyone can do to 100% ensure anyone's safety. And the sad truth is that in a world in which people have access to high-powered weapons, that there's little that can be done to prevent a committed shooter to doing harm. And that's the reality that we face and we must continue to grapple with, both as a school district and as a country. But there are a couple important things that people should be aware of. One, Attleboro is lucky to be in the Commonwealth. Massachusetts has among the strictest gun laws, and as such, there is a certain measure of safety that comes with that. Here in Massachusetts, You know, our police department oversees every gun license and spends quite a bit of time making sure that guns are not legally obtainable by people who should not have such access. And in Massachusetts, the police chief can revoke that license and also confiscate the guns of people who present a threat. And that's a safety that we are, I think, very lucky to have here in Massachusetts, and it's helped to keep us safer. The other thing is that Massachusetts has one of the best educational systems in the world, and I think that that's an important part of this as well. As I'll talk about a little bit later, you know, prevention is a key to this puzzle, and you know, as an educator, I see our efforts to educate children as our best line of defense against the problems that we're facing. Specific to Attleboro, there's some things that people should know. That the district takes this threat seriously at all times. We remain vigilant, not just when terrible things happen in the world to remind us that this is a problem, but we keep at this even when these things are further from our minds. We have a district safety committee. We have building safety committees. They meet regularly. They have safety plans. Those safety plans are reviewed regularly. We drill as part of those safety plans. This planning, these precautions that we take, the things that we do as a district to try to improve safety, these are ongoing efforts and reflect the fact that this is a concern that we are always worried about and will continue to do our best to improve the conditions for our students. Another key component here in Attleboro is that we have excellent relationships with the Attleboro Police Department. I cannot say enough how much of a partner we have in the Attleboro Police Department. Communication between our two organizations is strong. We work together hand in hand. We do have a full-time SRO at the high school. There is a junior detective that serves all of our schools. And there is regular police presence in our buildings. They make a point of all the officers knowing the buildings well, being in the buildings, making appearances, and you know, showing a presence, which is an important part of our relationship with the APD. I would also mention that we have made in the last few years recent upgrades to our security systems, and we also have taken very seriously the need to be aware of what's on social media and taking steps to make sure that we are aware of the kinds of things that are being said on social media as they present possible threats to us and also things that we should be concerned about. And so these are all things that we've been doing all along because we recognize that this is an area of grave concern. But in specific response to the recent events, well, certainly we're going to continue the efforts that we already had in place and the things that we've been working on. We're going to continue to do those things. We also will be, as a district, thinking about how we can participate in the national protest that is planned for March 14th. We want to find an appropriate way that's specific to each level, so there won't be one district response. There'll be leveled responses. I'll be working with the principals this week to figure out exactly what the appropriate participation would be. But we will be doing something. Again, we want to give our kids a chance to express themselves appropriately. There's been a lot of talk of the need to improve security even further, and I certainly welcome that. If the community is interested in making an investment in the security of our students, that is something that I would welcome and be happy to participate in. There's been a lot of talk in the last week about target hardening, the idea of making our schools less soft targets and more safe for students by measures that make them harder to attack. I would be certainly in favor of some sensible improvements, things that make sense and that can be done so feasibly. But I would caution against any moves that would turn our schools into prisons, that would change the dynamic between students and teachers and undermine the fact that kids are the people we're supposed to be educating, not fearing. And so I think we have to think long and hard about what those things are, because many of the measures that I hear people talking about really do not provide actual security, but the illusion of security. Many of them displace the problem from one place to another and don't actually leave us any safer. And so if we're going to invest our community's dollars in improving security for our students, I would argue that the place we should look most carefully as improved resources for social emotional learning. As we have discussed in this room on many occasions, we do not have the resources we need to meet the needs of our kids, and more in the line of prevention is the best way. We are educators at heart, and as such, we would much rather get ahead of a problem and solve it before it becomes something like what happened in Florida, rather than just arming ourselves to ensure that we could kill somebody who turned out the wrong way. So those would be my general comments on how we will proceed, and I certainly would be open to any questions if you have any.
Mrs. Gales?
Thank you. And I think the work that Brennan's doing on the social emotional and piece is huge, and you can see that they are already starting to they're thinking about taking the steps and putting things together to work on that, and I think that's applaudable. I let Mr. Chairman know that I took a look at our safety policies that we have in the books. In Section A, we do have one policy that has not been looked at in a while, so I think it'd be prudent for us to bring that to the next policy subcommittee. And then there are several other policies that we did have done recently in Section E, and support services, and there may be one lingering one in that, and I'll bring that up to policy as well to take a look at. It's not that they're not being followed. This is a good time to bring them up and take a look at things, so we can update on that. Thank you.
Mr. Storrs?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is definitely a multifaceted issue. No one thing is going to solve this. Social emotional is definitely one aspect, and it's good that you're looking at it in that way. But we need to be looking at everything. And I know that we have, and I know we have policies in place that address these kind of things. And I also know when it comes to security and safety that there's certain levels that we can't speak about publicly, that if we were to do so legally, we would go into executive session. It's one thing to say we have cameras at the school here, and it's another thing to say where those cameras are, for example.
Correct.
But generally, high level, could you speak? I know that your predecessor had some thoughts and had some, I believe, a group come in and take a look at things. Have we moved on any of those? Have we looked at any of that information that was provided at that time? In those years since that was done, has anything changed?
There has been information that was compiled through that process. That information is in all of our schools. And from that, the plans and the apparatus by which we handle the various committees in the district have all been altered by that work. So yes, things have changed since before that.
What about the actual the facilities themselves? Has anything been put into place? In regard to that?
Yeah, so I mean, there have been upgrades to systems.
All right, very good.
And as I said, I agree that some of the things that we could talk about in terms of other things to do are certainly things that we're willing to investigate.
Very good. Thank you.
Mrs. Sawyer?
Well, I agree with Mr. Storrs, but I think that Attleboro has a potential to be an accident waiting to happen. We have too many classrooms, too many windows that lead direct access to the students in the classroom. And I think that we should be doing more than just what we're currently doing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Geddes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to wholeheartedly agree with a lot of what Mr. Sawyer said, that you can't help but wonder the assailants in these cases over the years, what types of support services did they have available to them? What types of opportunities did they have that could have, or what didn't they have that could have prevented them from going down this path? And I do think the schools need to provide as many of those services as possible. I do have two questions. One, you touched upon the relationship with the Attleboro Police Department and their presence in the building. I know I've seen pictures of high five lines, so it's not just that they're in the building. Obviously, there's a security presence there, but that's not the sole purpose of that presence. Can you go into a little more detail about their knowledge of the buildings, what types of trainings they've had in each building, what types of response trainings they've had, things along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, they've done response trainings in the actual buildings. I don't want to get into too many details, but their knowledge of the buildings is strong. They are well aware of what they would want to do in various situations, and that's something that we've worked on with them. And yes, they're there not just when they're visiting. They're not there to make a presence, although that is a benefit of it. That people say, oh, the police are here from time to time. It's as much about building relationships as it is anything else.
Right.
Like our DARE program, for those of us that have been to the DARE graduation, right? This is trying to build strong relationships between our kids and the police, for kids to see, men in uniform as part of the supports in this community, not something to be afraid of, and that's something that we've really worked on.
And I think it's worth noting that the police department has a binder that I have to imagine is about 6 inches thick of plans for just about every possible scenario. And knocking on wood here, that we don't necessarily know that that's in place because we haven't had to experience it, and hopefully we don't.
Quite frankly, there's quite a bit of things that in the name of keeping everyone safe, we should not talk about.
Right. The other thing I wanted to ask about, I got an email from Ms. De Palma, the principal at Studley, that she is hosting a meeting for families to come discuss safety and security in the schools. Is that something that's happening district-wide, or is that something that schools will be planning out over the course of the next week?
We will be meeting tomorrow as a group to talk about, a district response, but she has shared that with the other principals to give them the idea, and certainly would be promoting other people following suit.
Excellent. And that meeting's happening Wednesday the 28th. Forgive me, I can't remember the time. I believe it's at 7 p.m.
Mr. Storrs?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. More of a statement. You mentioned the SRO, and I think that's very important, especially at the high school level. Having, so I want to thank the Attleboro Police Department for, continuing having that presence in our building. That is a critical presence for many reasons, but having a person of that nature who has the pulse of our students, who understands the relationships, has those relationships, that's critical. And, it's very important that we maintain that. So I did want to mention that, that's important, and that, thankfully the police chief and the police department continues to have that relationship with us and have that position.
Yes, and they value it too. It's the busiest day beat in the city.
There you go.
It is.
Mr. Guess?
And I would also point out to Mr. Sawyer's initial point about this being a personal matter for him, this is a personal matter for a lot of our police officers, for a lot of our firefighters as well. A lot of them have children in our schools, so this is absolutely it's very personal for all of us.
Thank you for the report. I'll echo what you said, Superintendent Sawyer, that there's no absolutes, unfortunately, and it's it's a sad testament that we have to be having this conversation, one, and that there is no guarantees, but I do also agree that we have a lot of protections in place in Attleboro, and to the extent we can say so, our kids are safe in our schools. I have 2 kids in schools as well. If people have concerns, specific concerns, I'd urge them to reach out to the school committee or the administration directly. There have been things done to improve safety that aren't publicized, again, so they can provide safety. So contact administration of the school committee to get the answers and to express your concerns, and we can respond accordingly. Thank you. Do you have anything else, Superintendent Sawyer?
That concludes my report.
All right. Moving on, MSBA AHS project update. Since our last meeting, the MSBA did approve the project on February 14th, starting the clock, the 120-day clock, for the city to vote and potentially approve a debt exclusion, so we can enter into a funding agreement with the state, by which they would provide just under half of the cost of the new high school. The date of the vote has been set for April 3rd, and the City Council has a public hearing this Thursday in City Council chambers at 7 o'clock to discuss the loan authorization for the debt exclusion. That's really it as far as the MSBA process itself is concerned. The ball is in the city's court now, and we're moving towards that election day. Anybody else? Superintendent Sawyer, anything else?
Nothing.
Mr. Geddes?
We are, as you said, the vote is happening April 3rd, so we are limited on opportunities to learn about this project. We have a couple of formal opportunities. We will have our last opportunity for a tour of the current building happening this coming Sunday, March 4th, at noon. Anyone interested should come to the mini auditorium at the principal's entrance. Next Monday, March 5th, a week from tonight, we'll be doing our last formal presentation about the project at the Attleboro Public Library at 7 p.m. And on the less formal side, we do have a couple of events happening. We'll be doing a number of events across the city at a number of different restaurants, but this coming Saturday, March 3rd at 8 a.m., there will be some coffee and pastries available at Bliss Brothers on Park Street to get some information there. Sunday, March 4th in the evening at 7 p.m. at Briggs Corner Pizzeria. There will be some additional opportunities to get some good food and some fun ways to learn about the project and the high school itself. A number of yard signs went up over the weekend across the city. Anyone that's interested in a sign or is interested in volunteering on the campaign should go to the website buildbluepride.com to sign up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Storrs?
Yeah, I just want to real quickly just commend yourself and especially Mr. Geddes, the amount of time and effort you put in to make sure that no citizen of Attleboro could actually say they didn't have the opportunity to learn about this project. I think the due diligence has absolutely been there, so I think that's commendable. It should be noted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? All right. That concludes the business agenda for tonight. Next, we have approval of our minutes from our February 12th, 2018 meeting. They were circulated with your packets. There was one change. Wards 5, I'm sorry, in the present category, it listed Ward 6. It should be Ward 5 for Ms. Johnson. In the absent category, it listed Ward 5 as vacant, and that should be Ward 6. So those changes have been made. We have a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Consent agenda. Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $143.10 from the Attleboro Varsity Booster Club to the AHS Boys Basketball.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $91.80 from Attleboro Varsity Booster Club to the AHS Boys Basketball.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve a donation in the amount of $570.32 from Bertucci's Restaurant to the AHS Robotics Club.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $92.10 from the Attleboro Varsity Booster Club to the class of 2018.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $2,000 from the Feinstein Foundation as broken down in the memorandum dated February 23rd.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That concludes the consent agenda. Next, subcommittee reports, policy and personnel. Ms. Scales?
Sure, we just have one item, and that we will be removing from the table the following policies and exhibits: GBJ, GCA, IMG, IMGE1, IMGE2, IHAMB, KBBA, KBBA E1, E2, policy KE, and KI. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Scales. Teaching and learning. Brennan is not here tonight. There are no motions to bring forward, so I will table this until next week, and he can, next meeting, and he can give a update on what was discussed at the last subcommittee meeting. That concludes our subcommittee reports for tonight. I'll move on to open forum. This is the time when members of the public may address the school committee. Open forum is not a time for committee members to engage in a dialogue with members of the public. Guidelines for open forum are available to you if you would like them. Please know that we are interested in what you have to say, but we cannot respond without background information on your issue. If you'd like to address the committee at open forum, please come forward and state your name and address. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi. My name is Lori Sawyer from 136 Curtis Avenue, and I'm here with several high school students here. We're all here for to express our concern about the safety of the students of Attleboro schools, especially after Parkland, Florida's shooting. I really appreciate, Mr. Sawyer, all the information that you gave about what's happening now and what's going to happen. I really appreciate that, and I think that's what we need to hear because it wasn't heard previously. And I have a very artificial article that I want to just share with you that I found last week from the Patch. That was 100 safest school systems in Massachusetts, a survey from Niche. Like I said, it's an artificial article. But basically, this company is a website that explores rankings and reviews of different towns and school systems. That 100 safest school systems, Attleboro didn't make the list. So it was kind of, I looked at that and I thought, well, what school systems did? And just because I hadn't heard anything about our safety, I was worried. And so Cambridge school systems are #1. So I said, well, what are they doing that's better, that made them #1? So I actually called the superintendent's office and talked to their safety officer, and they just basically, I asked them, what are they doing? They're a very big city, of course, and they have a whole lot more money in order to put towards their safety. So they have a safety department all in its own. And they have, resource officers in every school. They're up to date with all training and conflict resolution and active shooter training for all of the people and all the staff. So I asked him, I said, so what, for a smaller district, would you suggest for us to make sure we had for our, and like I said, it's just me, a parent. I have no idea about how things can be done. But he suggested, to make sure that the access to the schools for the staff, is secure, maybe even card readers so that people who aren't supposed to be in the schools can't get in the schools, and a higher scrutiny of visitors as they come in. Is also big. Lockdown policies, like the Parkland, Florida one, I think they were in lockdown, and they pulled the fire alarm and people went out, and that's how the problem was. And their lockdown policy is that no matter, even if there's a fire alarm, they are not to leave the building, unless they smell smoke or fire, of course, and then they do leave. But so I'm just a concerned citizen and parent wanting to make sure that our city is also secure, and I'm glad to hear, as you mentioned, that the police and the school system work well together. And again, it's something that I didn't know previously, and we just don't want to be next. So I don't know if the high school students have anything to say that you would like to bring forth too.
Yeah, I'm Casey Glaze, and I live on 18 Peckham Street, and I'm 17, and I'm a junior here. I've noticed a lot at the school that shootings have become funny. Like, people make it a joke a lot, and it's not, obviously, a joke. And the teachers don't talk to us about it. I had one teacher maybe in a 30-second announcement talk about it to us, and that was pretty much it, besides social media. But here, nobody talks about it. And I think that if we had some, reassurance with, the guidance, the adjustment counselors, and our teachers, I think we would feel a lot safer, because being tight with the school, it's a big, I don't know what the word is, united, I think would really be a good feeling for all the students, and I don't think we have that right now. That's it.
I'm Jason Grenier. I live on 94 Sweetland Ave.
I'm 16. I'm a junior here, and I had something prepared to say to you all tonight, but a lot of it was actually fortunately covered in the meeting. One thing that I just want to like emphasize tonight is the drills. I think I can remember one time that we had an intruder drill, and I think it was my freshman year, and now I'm a junior here. So like I could have been absent. I'm not sure. Like, but I want to make sure that like we all know what to do, and we all know, like we have one intruder drill in one block, like in one singular block in a classroom that we're in only in a section of like the day, but some of the classrooms and some like the designs of the building are obviously they vary throughout the building. So like knowing what to do in one classroom can't really help you when you're in another classroom in another building. Like that could have a different setup. Like some of the classrooms are in clusters, so that could like be like really hard to get out of rather than like being in like one big classroom that's easier to file out of. And another thing is like along with like the drills, I think like we should like have to know like what to do if we're in the library or if we're outside or if we're in gym. I'm not sure if I already mentioned the cafeteria, but like I feel like these are all spots that we really need to hit. And like Casey said before, like a lot of kids are taking this as a joke. Like they're making memes on the internet about it. They're like targeting kids, saying like, oh yeah, like I bet they're gonna be a school shooter. And I feel like I know like one of my friends who came here with us tonight, they were saying that sorry, I just lost my train of thought. They were saying how bullying was. I remember like when in elementary school and middle school, bullying was like the hot button issue of like that time we were taught how to not be a bystander. We were taught how to report this, and I feel like kids who are in elementary, not necessarily elementary school, I'm not here to make that decision, but I feel like kids in the education system should know how to combat this and should know how to pick up on signs so this can be preventable. Because like we said, like this is preventable, but safety is not guaranteed, but it is preventable. And I feel like if we take the necessary steps, we can definitely like prevent this from happening. Like after I graduate next year, I want to make sure my 10-year-old sister is safe in the school system. I want to make sure she was able to graduate like I was.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Barbara Croft, and I live on Oak Hill Avenue. I'm very involved in the schools. I've probably seen more than most. Our schools aren't safe, and I'm very concerned about this. Other communities, like Attleboro, that were thought to be safe have been struck with horrific tragedies. Quiet, friendly, close-knit communities, like Sandy Hook, Connecticut, and Parkland, Florida. Sandy Hook has learned from their tragic event and redesigned their school with security measures second to none. They've installed classroom doors that can be locked from the inside or outside to be able to secure a classroom without having to open the door. Side windows adjacent to classroom doors are bullet resistant.
I appreciate what you're doing. I want you to speak, but what we don't want to be doing is talking about the safety features of the schools in public. It's a safety concern, which is why when we talk about safety features of the schools, both what they do have and what they don't have, we go into executive session because this is a public meeting. So, I would say please continue with what you want to say. Just if you could, refrain from things that, may or may not be in place. That would
I'm talking about Sandy Hook, which is public knowledge.
I understand.
Mr. Withers,
okay.
So that's what I'm saying here. I'm not talking about what's in the
Okay.
Attleboro school system.
All right, I just want to
which
say
I
to the
would
extent-
never
Thank you.
do that. Thank you.
Yep.
So side windows adjacent to classrooms at Sandy Hook, the doors are bullet resistant and interior walls are reinforced. Outside, they have put in a bioswale designed to absorb stormwater runoff, but it also serves another purpose, keeping people at a distance. We should be learning from this and protecting our schools. We have schools that have classrooms without doors or walls, no protection. Why haven't we learned anything from their losses and implemented more substantial deterrence in our schools? Marjorie Stoneham Douglas High School was thought to be one of the safest schools in Florida and was taken by surprise. We can't ignore what's happening in the world around us and being oblivious or naive and think this couldn't or won't happen here in Attleboro. Reality is it could. We need to keep assailants out of our schools. We need to stop them from getting in. We need to put deterrents in place now. If a shooter gets into our open classroom elementary schools, those children and staff have a minimal chance of survival.
Mrs. Crowe, I'm going to say again, you're speaking to specifics of the building. Okay? It's inappropriate.
I'm
for an
speaking
open-
about public knowledge that anyone's been into our open classroom elementary schools. I'm not speaking about anything in particular in that school. Anyone that has children that have gone
not
to those
every-
schools, they're
excuse me,
open
Mrs.
classroom.
Crowe, I'm letting you speak, and
Sure.
you can have your voice. You're speaking to things that not everyone knows who haven't been in the school. I'm going to ask you again to refrain from specific items in the schools, whether they're there or not. Some things that you might not think are there, some are not. But you can say what you like to say, just do not speak to specifics of the building, and we'll have to close open forum.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Doors are propped open at every school. We need alarms on every door, alarms that alert staff that a door is open, alarms that can't just be easily turned off and ignored. We need to put in a multi-door system at each school, main entrance before the classrooms and inner corridors, doors that can lock quickly or even automatically when an alarm goes off before an unauthorized person has time to get into the interior of the schools. Once you're buzzed in through main doors at most, if not all our schools, you have open access to classrooms. This isn't only in open classroom schools in general, not in just our district. Okay, it is true for all schools. I spoke with Attleboro Police Chief Kyle Hegney. He stated he'd like to have more school resource officers in place and at every school, at minimum in both middle schools and the high school. He mentioned Cop Sync, a multifaceted approach alarm system that he feels would benefit all our schools. The teachers would have access to this app and would alert all emergency personnel, the schools and first responders. When response time is crucial, an app like this would be beneficial. Be Safe is a program that we use in our schools, he said, but it's not in conjunction with the police department. Chief Hegney has discussed this with Superintendent Sawyer and that they both are on board with getting the Attleboro Police Department connected with this program. Let's get this implemented. What happened, again, to the safety plan put in place, put forth by the former superintendent? When I reached out to certain school committee members, they had not heard anything else on this. So why have we not gone forward with these improvements, added to them or developed them further? Shortening the length of windows that go from floor to ceiling, I know has been a concern in all school districts, not just in Attleboro. So where would this stand on our list? Why have we dropped the ball? We need to do all we can to protect our children and all the staff, excuse me, in our schools. To prevent a loss of life or to lessen the loss of life by just one makes it well worth it. Metal detectors, SRO offices, bulletproof glass are deterrents and can save lives. We need to get these in all of our schools now before it's too late. Metal detectors should be installed at main access points. 17 schools in Boston have metal detectors. I reached out to some of these schools to see how effective they were. The Boston School Police Chief said they no longer have major issues with weapons being brought into their schools. And yes, they have a school police force separate from the Boston Police Department. Students do not experience any significant delays getting into the buildings and get to class on time. It is an effective and efficient process. School staff is also on hand to use handheld wands. I have scheduled an appointment to speak with Superintendent Sawyer and ask further questions. I spoke with Mayor Hero, who has planned a meeting with the police and fire chief to discuss school safety also. He feels we need to do a better job screening visitors, and we should not just be buzzing people in. He also feels we need to stop an assailant before they get into the schools. He has continued to file bills for state grants offering funds to focus on things like bullying. I hope you as school committee members do your job and reach out to other communities and find out how they have implemented deterrence and how, with challenging funds and budgets, we're able to put things in place. Metal detectors, increased SROs, bulletproof glass, multiple door system entranceways should be standard in all our schools and put in place now. We need to protect the existing schools we have, not just looking at future plans and only putting them in future schools. I do not want Attleboro to be the next to say we never thought this would happen here. We thought we were safe. and have to suffer like these other communities that have been struck with such senseless and devastating tragedies because we chose to act too late or not at all. We can make our schools safe. Attleboro is amazing. We can protect our children. Attleboro is a resourceful community. We find ways to do amazing things. We can find a way to put safety measures second to none at all our schools. We have found ways for city improvements, new programs, a state-of-the-art football field that is second to none. We can find a way to put deterrence in our schools. We have an obligation to provide optimal security for our students and school personnel. This needs to be done. We can't ignore this any longer. We need to act on this now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Robin Salvas. I live at 47 Sherman Street, and I'm going to just address coming into the high school itself. I believe middle school and elementary school is a little bit different. I did have the occasion on January 16th. It was a half day of school that I was coming to visit a teacher, and I thought school had been dismissed. I actually had come a half an hour before dismissal time. And so my concern is I was beeped in through the front door. I had enough sense and the wherewithal to go to the principal's office. I've had times when I've seen people not go. I signed in, but I was not asked who I was, asked for an ID, or where I was going. I did have a bag with me, was not asked what was in the bag. The woman did ask me, was I expected? And all I said was yes, and she said, please grab a visitor's pass. To me, that's a little vague. Every shooter, per se, is not a child. It's a parental parent. And first I will say, our children did go to school here, and our youngest is 26. And it was never a fear we had with our children. Unfortunately, it is a fear we're going to have with our grandchildren. And it's sad. It is sad. You know, I still cry at Sandy Hook. I still cry, you know, at Parkland and Columbine. It's not something, you know, that children should be able to come to school. When I saw the little girl from Brennan stand up here, I have a 29-year-old daughter. That could have been my little girl who loved to go to school every day. You know, that could have been my Rebecca. That was her. She couldn't wait to go to school every day. That was my Emily. My Matthew, well, he was the one that just sat there. And when school was out, he was home. You know what I mean? He came to school, he sat there, he was a good boy, and he went home. And school was over. But my girls love school. My girls love school. And to this day, they love school, you know. I think they could be professional students. But it bothered me that I could have walked, and I walked the hall, and teachers say hi to me. My little girl is 26 years old. She has not been in this school since she was 17. I have lost 185 pounds. Nobody can say they know who I am. I don't look the same. Nobody can say, oh, I recognize you. This might look the same. Not really, I'm older. That concerns me. But I had the sense that I take the responsibility upon myself to sign in. But I think I should be asked for an ID. And be asked, I didn't know, I thought school got out at 10:20, not 10:50, because I don't have school kids in the system anymore. And I was coming to see Christine Gervaisi and Ari Weinstein to wish him a happy anniversary, Ari's 50th birthday, actually. But, you know, I should have been asked to wait until school was dismissed and not be let to roam the hall. And every adult teacher, whoever, all they do is pass you and say hi. Not where are you going or who are you. That's a huge concern. That's a huge concern. Because I'm not a teacher, or I'd have a lanyard on. Or somebody would know who I am. And I wouldn't have a winter coat on walking the hall. So that's my concern for this particular building. Because it's a huge building. You know, so that's my concern. Will it? You get buzzed in, the office is right there. Brennan, you get buzzed in, the office is right there. That's a different scenario. People don't have the ability to roam the hall because somebody can grab you before you can, you know, can roam. Studley's pretty much the same way. The office is right there. But for Attleboro, it's a distance, and sometimes those women, there's one or two, they can't see you, you know. And there's many times I've walked in this high school, even when my kids were students here, before this whole shooting incident, that I could walk the hall and nobody would say, boo, who are you? you know, and with a number of students that are here and the number of parents, and I was involved with my kids, so yes, pretty much everybody did know who I was. The kids would rather they not know, and they still say they would rather they had not. I think that'll change when they have their own kids, but, you know, it's just a huge issue. Everybody can't know who everybody is. So I think to ask for a photo ID when you sign in, and can you please wait till the kids get out of school? You know, because that's how it is. When you sign your kid out at Willett, you can't just go in and say, I'm here for the little Withers boy. I don't know what your son's name is, but if I'm gonna call him Steve,
Yep.
I know he's not Steve, but, you know, I can't
Zach.
pick. What?
Zach.
Yeah, but I can't say I'm here to pick up Zach Withers unless unless they know. I can't go to Paula and say I'm here to pick up so-and-so. Even if Paula knows me, I have to have permission to take that child. You know what I mean? So it's just a huge, in the high school itself, every shooter is not going to be a child. Whoever's going to cause whatever concern. You know, there's been disgruntled parents that have done it. And I think that's an issue just in this building.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi.
I'm Catherine Bell. I'm 16. I go here. I didn't really prepare anything, so I apologize in advance. But I just wanted to go off of what Jason was saying earlier about the drills. I think, like he was saying, I haven't had I can't remember a lockdown drill. When obviously there's a fire drill, but I don't think we did one this year. I don't remember doing one. And I know in middle school, I think I was in 6th grade, we had a bomb threat, and I know myself and other students that I was friends with at the time, we had no idea what we were supposed to do in that situation because we had never even thought about this happening, and we had done lockdown drills and fire drills, but we hadn't even thought of a bomb threat. I honestly, obviously at the time, I was I've grown educationally, so I honestly thought we were supposed to be locked in the classroom, and we obviously proceed out the building and go to a specific place, but I didn't know where I was supposed to go based on what classroom I was in. So it's talking about what Jay was talking about earlier, I think it's important that we're doing more drills that help our safety in the school, and obviously I care about my own safety, but I want to make sure that my loved ones in their classrooms, they're safe, and my boyfriend in carpentry and other CTEs, they know what to do in their situation based on the large classrooms they're in. And say my sister in Brennan was using the ladies' room at the time that a lockdown drill was called, or the need to be in a safe place, and she had to stay in the bathroom, procedures, I'd want to make sure she knew what she was supposed to do. And so basically, in summary, I just want to make sure that we're doing all we can at the moment with everything going on in the community, and I think the first major step we can be taking is enforcing these drills and even just communicating more about mental health to everyone. I think we've, like we said earlier, there's a lot taught to us in middle school about drugs and bullying and stuff like that, but I think something that I wasn't really taught and I had to learn on my own was mental health and symptoms, and I want to be a psychologist in the future, so I know a little more, but I know some people aren't very aware of signs, and sometimes people don't know that anger can be part of other issues. So I think if we, in advisory, if we hand out sheets that would educate students more on what to look out for and how to be able to help their classmates better, and that might help us in the future if anything is wrong, and helping, obviously we don't want this to happen, but if we needed to know symptoms of potential targets, I just think it'd be important if the school did more about educating on drills and mental health awareness. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the committee at open forum? Okay, then that will close open forum. Thank you to all of you. At this time, the Attleboro School Committee will convene an executive session pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Sections 21A2 and A3, to discuss strategy with respect to negotiations with union personnel and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the school committee, the school committee will not reconvene in open session.
So moved. Second?
Mrs. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Geddes?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Scales?
Yes.
Mr. Withers, yes. Mr. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Storrs?
Yes.
All right, we'll just take a 2 or 3 minute recess.
Before the others pull everything together and stuff off the chairs, okay?
Thank you.
You think